What is going on, my modern leaders? Good morning. Good morning. I want to ask you, is it time to master your entrepreneurial mindset? By the way, that word, for some reason, entrepreneurial, kind of like gets stuck in my mouth sometimes. But that is what today's call is going to be all about. Now, in all transparency, Teresa and I are in Maui right now with our kids. They're probably fighting, but we're still having a great time. I promise you, okay? We are doing this as a recording because Teresa's going to actually have this be a episode on her Organized Chaos podcast. We really wanted to break this down for you guys, though, because when it comes to the entrepreneurial mindset, sometimes people don't understand it, but then they also can't figure out how to create that energy they need, how to create the habits they need to go in alignment with their mindset, because we always talk about mindset, right? You probably have heard that and been sold that time and time again because it's such a vital part of that. But I don't think people have been able to sit down and actually identify, or I know I haven't heard it, where they break down how we're going to do today in these 5 different strategies or 5 different steps on how to really make sure that you are owning all of these. And as you go, what corrections and what adjustments you have to make. So guys, like I always say, welcome to Modern Leadership, where we see things differently, which is going to be a part of the entrepreneurial mindset today. Anyway, we help entrepreneurs become modern leaders so they can excel both in their personal and professional lives without sacrificing family time or burning themselves out. How we do that is quick tip videos on Mondays and Thursdays and longer episodes on Saturdays to really deep dive into some of the different things that we talk about during the week so we can help personalize this for your business. We also have a Modern Leadership Business Book Club. If you're not a part of that, I don't know what you're doing. There's 640 people who are in there. I'll leave you in the description if you aren't a part of that. It's powerful. We're actually jumping into Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and explaining how it applies to business. But without further ado, I think we should probably jump into today's episode. It's going to be a powerful one, and I will throw it right over to my co-host. What's going on, girlfriend?
Good.
All right, let's go. Let's go.
All right. So like Mark said, I am actually using this as a podcast episode. And, just to let you know, we like to be prepared and we like to do things so that we don't have to worry about them later. So we're combining this as a quote live, but also an episode for me so that I can post it or upload it early. And I don't have to worry about that while we're on vacation because we do want to enjoy our vacation and we have the time to do this right now. So we're trying to repurpose content just like how we practice. So I'm going to go ahead and start my intro so that I can actually use this for my podcast, and then we'll jump right into the topic. So you ready?
Let's go.
All right. All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Organized Chaos. Today, I am joined by my husband, Mark Hildebrand. Say hello.
Yes. Hello. Hi.
That was a little awkward, but
well, you
okay,
told me
I'll
to
take
say
it.
hello, so I'm being a good husband, just following orders. Hello.
Okay. All right, so today we're actually going to be talking about how to master your entrepreneurial mindset. And really what we want to talk about today is how having a entrepreneurial, see,
Told ya.
Now you messed me up. You messed me up. You were talking about this earlier. So how to have this mindset and how it actually impacts your energy, your habits, and your focus. So we're actually going to give you a few reasons why it's important to have this type of mindset and how you can actually cultivate a growth mindset and, really take advantage of it so that you can feel empowered and really get things done that really matter in your business so that you have time to actually enjoy your life.
I love that part.
Yeah. So actually, I'm going to throw it back to Mark because he is going to be talking about the first thing.
Yes. So, and when we were kind of brainstorming this, by the way, this is a very, very powerful topic. And I know I kind of talked about it a minute ago on our YouTube channel. But really it's about seeing things a little bit differently than others. And you may have this intangibility, lack of having tangible benefits to the entrepreneurial mindset. How do you describe it, right? How do you actually describe it? How about if I just use smaller words, right? Smaller words, Mark.
Okay, let's play it safe.
But yes, let's definitely play it safe. But sometimes people say entrepreneurial mindset and I have no idea what that actually meant until I became an entrepreneur, until I struggled through it and I realized how powerful it was because really it's all about seeing the world and seeing problems and seeing things through a different lens. So that's why I really want to start about like when we talk about like understanding the entrepreneurial mindset. I actually did a video on our YouTube. By the way, if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, Modern Leadership, you definitely need to, because Teresa always drops some bombs over there. It's awesome. The nuggets of wisdom that she drops over there. But one of the videos that we did was talking about like, how do you know you're on the path to success in your business? And the way that I described it was really making sure that you're seeing things differently than most. As an entrepreneur, you probably agree that you see things a little bit differently, right? Maybe like there's a problem, but you see it as an opportunity. You see it as like, you know what, this is this thing that I was able to navigate through, but it was so painful in the moment. Now I can see it as an opportunity for me to go out there and for me to help other people with this thing. And so when I think about the entrepreneurial mindset, I always think about like, am I seeing things from a different perspective? It's why at Modern Leadership we say we see things differently, because you can see things through your own lens. That's like your personal lens, how it applies to you. And I highly suggest you do that, right? But also like, how do you see it through a leadership lens? How do you see it through your kids' lens? How do you see it through other people's who are going through that struggle? How can you see it through their lens? And when you realize that that's just how we have to attack things, we have to attack things differently than most, we know that if we're thinking like everybody else, then we're not into the entrepreneurial mindset. We're into just everybody else thinking about, the fear, the head voice, and all that stuff that's keeping us stuck. But the quicker that we can do this, the quicker we can reframe it into that different mindset, the quicker that we're going to be able to not only make an impact in other people's lives, but in our lives too. So step number one is even understanding what the entrepreneurial mindset is. And if I had to simplify this is, are you looking at things differently? Are you seeing problems as things that you can come up with, solutions like to problems, how you can help people? Instead of, I'm going through this right now, this is the end of the world, and only seeing it from your perspective. The more perspectives you can see, the more that you can use this to actually not only empower you, but to show other people how they can do that too, right? We call it modeling that behavior. And if we're doing that, we're seeing things differently, it's a total game changer. Now, before I talk to Teresa about step number two, I want to give you an idea of like what I even mean by this, all right? I'm a part of a training that's called the Video Ranking Academy. It's what I leaned into when I first decided to dive into YouTube, right? And so I'm in this course and I'm wanting to get some additional help. Like I love courses, but I love one-on-ones, because when I look at like how quickly I get results on one-on-ones, I'm like, every single month that I don't do this, I'm kind of giving up the money that I'd be able to make and the people that I'd be able to impact because I'm not unwilling to do that. So for me, I'm like, I need to get some extra help. So I made a post in there and I'm like, hey guys, is there any way that some of the people who are actually the master coaches in this program can give a one-on-one? And I can't tell you, like 30 minutes later, there was like 17 comments of like, it's probably too much. I don't know, like, why don't you just like talk to the people in this group? Like, and there were like all of these comments and my brain went to, oh, they must not want it as bad as me, because I will pay that anytime that I want to. Why would I? Here's the thing. Let's think about this logically. I want to get to where Think Media is. They have a 1 million subscriber show. They know all the tactics and they're teaching me that. Why wouldn't I want to go to the source, the person who created it, the person who like has the roadmap versus, yeah, the community's cool. But remember, there's 3 levels of reach here. I know we don't have time to do this, but if I'm just reaching out, I'm missing one key component, and that is reaching up. So my brain goes, this is the perfect opportunity, because for me, I'm willing to do that, which means if you're willing to do things that most people aren't, you're going to be able to have things that most people don't have. And so this is that entrepreneur mindset. Like, are you in thinking about like, oh, it's going to cost me money, it's going to cost me time? Or are you thinking of things differently of like, how fast will this speed up my process? How many more humans will I be able to help? And how much bigger of an impact will this make in my life? That's the perspective shift. Does it happen immediately and automatically? Not in the beginning, but you get really good at this, especially when you become a life coach, right? You get really good at just jumping back into that heart voice, because you know that the actions you're going to take are going to be so much more astronomical than the ones that you take in your head voice. So that is step number one, is the entrepreneurial mindset, the general understanding of it. So you ready to dive into number two?
Yeah, well, before we go into step number two, I do want to kind of expand on that, because it really is about having an open mindset, right? And even if you still have those questions that the people have in that group, like it's going to cost too much. It's da, da, da. Instead of thinking about it as a like a loss, it's kind of more of a gain, right? Well, yeah, this will probably cost me money. Having someone to help you one-on-one is always more expensive than having a group or going into something for free. But what is that going to do for you if you take that step? What are you going to gain if you go that route? Now, it could be that you just simply can't financially afford that, right? But think of the next best thing, right? You know, you find yourself where you are, and then what's the next best thing from a one-on-one? Oh, okay, well, I could take this course, right? So it's always about having that mindset of growth and understanding that no matter where you are, there's always some place you could start off with that really pushes you forward rather than holding you back. Because it sounds like a lot of those comments were just people who are just like really frustrated, and they, you know, they're not really open to things, right? So really, it's about having that open mindset.
Yep, love it.
All right, so let's go to number 2, which I think is the most important, because it's talking about growth mindset and cultivating a growth mindset. So I'm gonna like kind of keep you guys here a little bit so I can really kind of dive into the importance of having a growth mindset. So it's crucial to have this because I kind of talked about this a little bit, is you're embracing challenges. So when you come up with, hey, I have this place I want to get to, but there's all these little challenges, it's kind of like you embrace them rather than have them hold you back. So you're kind of allowing yourself to view challenges as opportunities, like Mark said, and you learn and you grow. And, you know, instead of being discouraged by, let's say, setbacks, you kind of see things as stepping stones to success. And this kind of mindset kind of empowers you to persevere through some of those obstacles and find kind of the solutions, right? So instead of saying, well, here's a roadblock and I can't get through, you're like, okay, well, what's a creative way I can get around this, right? So you start to kind of find those solutions. You become more solution oriented rather than focusing on the problems, because if you keep focusing on the problems, you're never going to find a solution, right? Nobody's going to come in and save you. Like that's something you need to understand. It's like, you be resourceful, right? Like, understand that nobody is going to come and help you if you don't ask for help, right? But also, like, you can figure it out. You can figure it out. So kind of embracing those challenges is one of those reasons why having a growth mindset is important. Another thing is really like, you believe in your potential. You start to believe in yourself. You believe that your abilities and your skills can be developed and improved upon. So this is kind of like, it opens up more of a world of possibilities. So that it's just like, you know what, maybe I don't believe in myself right now, but I'm going to keep growing, and I can trust myself enough that I can get to where I want to go. This is, we've talked about this before, the difference between confidence and self-confidence is that confidence is you do something, you succeed in it, and then you feel confident you can do it again. However, self-confidence is you trust yourself and your abilities, that even if you haven't done it before, you know you can do it, right? So it's that pursuit of self-confidence that we have. Another thing is we start to nurture resilience. So being an entrepreneur is a roller coaster ride, right? You have your ups and downs. You have a lot of highs and lows, but having a growth mindset will help you kind of build that resilience, and it'll foster kind of like this positive attitude and belief in your abilities. Another thing is, and it's kind of related to what I talked about earlier, is you kind of embrace innovation and creativity, right? Because when you have a growth mindset, you start to believe that there are different ways of doing things. Mark always says there's not a right, best, only way. There's many different, right? So it's just about finding that way for you, and having a growth mindset can empower you to do that. Another thing is it also builds stronger relationships. Now, being an entrepreneur can sometimes feel isolated, especially if you work from home. However, you can find people that will, you can learn from, people you can collaborate with, and you start to have this thought that it's not like a competition, that we're all in this together and we can all excel at what we're doing. And there really isn't a competition. Everybody's kind of running their own race. So you start to build relationships and networks that are really strong, that later on down the line can really propel you forward. So that's what I have for the importance of having a growth mindset.
Well, I kind of want you to just keep talking, because this is awesome. There were so many like really, really awesome points there. One of the things that kept coming up for me is like, when it comes to cultivating a growth mindset, is having more questions than you have make statements. So one of the things is like when we make a statement and we have a period at the end, like Teresa says, it makes our brain think there's one right, best, only way. And if this way doesn't work, there's something wrong. Instead, asking yourself questions and then being open to explore it, being open to put yourself in an environment to find it, being open to find a course or a training or a podcast or a YouTube channel called Modern Leadership, like whatever that is, right? It's like you just have to plant the seed of the question to really know that you have an open mindset. Like, what is a way? I love that. I love that question. What is a way that I could do this and this? What is a way that I could excel over here and here? And what you do is you plant the seed, and now you're like, okay, now I have a filter. So when I hear a podcast, it's like, oh, that podcast probably is not where I'm going to lean into, because it kind of sounds like I have to sacrifice my whole entire life in order to have success in business. Let me keep listening to another one. And then you come across our podcast and you're like, oh, wow, I can excel at both of them. Okay, let me find some answers here. And when you do that, when you ask yourself a question, I like to think of it as now you have a filter to find the answer as long as you're in the environment to find it, right? I mean, if you are like trying to succeed in business, let me tell you, and you're hanging out with just all police officers who don't have businesses, it's kind of hard to excel there. That's why I had to find another environment outside of the police field to be able to find those answers for me. But I had to do it by framing it and asking myself questions that were great questions, not terrible questions, right? Like, why is this happening to me? There's never a good answer to that, right? Why can't I make this? Why can't I make this? Why can't I make myself succeed? Why isn't my business working? That is not a really great question to ask, right? Because you'll get really bad answers. But when you have a great question of like, how can I do both of these? How can I excel at both of these? And you put yourself in that environment, you know you have an open mindset, because now you're trying to find the answer, and it's not just contained in what you currently know, right? Mm-hmm. They always say, like, I didn't know what I didn't know. I can tell you that was me too. And you think you know what you need to know, but in reality, one little idea is like, have you ever had that where you're like, holy smokes, I could do it that way? Like, yeah, I could try that, right? I said holy smokes because we're on the podcast. Teresa always likes to joke around, because in real life, I don't really say smokes that much. But it's all about like having that open mindset. So I really love that one. So great job on that. Next is going into me is step number 3, which is boosting energy for optimal performance. Did you know that your mindset is directly tied to your energy level? I want you to think about this. When you feel like it's possible, when you feel like there's hope, when you feel like that's a great idea, wow, I can really step into this. There's people out there who are suffering right now, and I need to like get out there and help them. How does that make you feel? Now, this is a part of our push method that we teach inside of our life coach certification. But when you are fueled by that heart voice, your energy is much higher than when it's fueled by your head voice. And if you're in a woe is me, this happened to me today, all those different spiraling thoughts, which by the way, happen to me still to this day. I still get into those thoughts. Sometimes it kind of feels like everything else is so much harder for the rest of the day. And so when I like to think about like energy, I like to think about what is the mindset or the stories, as we talk about as life coaches, that get me to feel like I have energy, like I'm excited, like I'm a heart-based emotion. And those will get me to take the actions that I want to take. Some of the ways that I like to think about how I can get that kind of energy is realizing that in the past, I've had that energy during certain days or times or flows or seasons, and then ask myself, what was it that caused me to have that high energy? For me personally, number one is always the people that I surround myself with. Good input, good output. Bad input, bad output. It's logic here, right? You surround yourself by people who are like naysayers, who are gossiping, it's super easy to get stuck in that, right? But if you surround yourself with other people who are leaders, business owners, people who are getting after it, right? It's so much easier to do that too. So number one is, who was I hanging out with, right? When I had that energy, and who was I not hanging out with? That's a critical question too. Maybe you're spending a little bit too much time in certain social media apps or certain places where it does make you feel less than. Well, it's time to like reframe that, right? Number two is, what was I doing to grow in that moment, right? Was there a certain book? Was there a certain person? Was there a certain mentor? Was there a certain coach that I was a part of? Like, what was I doing to grow in that specific? Was there a podcast that I was listening to that was really getting me on fire, right? And how can I do that again? Sometimes I'll read the same book over and over and over again if it gives me that feeling that I want to have, right? And then, of course, like when it comes to personal growth and the people that you surround yourself with, it's also about your physical and mental health and energy, right? So when it comes to Patty Godinez, freaking incredible coach that we have on our team, she always talks about this like pouring from an empty cup, right? And she has this really great visual where it's a video of like a cup, and then there's like a bowl on the outside. And what she does is she takes the water and she fills up the cup. And she's like, well, what happens when you continue to fill the cup over and it outpours into the bowl and into everybody else? But you can't do that if you're pouring from an empty cup. So if you're not taking care of your health, you're not drinking enough water, your nutrition isn't on point, you're not getting sleep, you don't have any way of managing your stress, it's very easy to reduce your level of energy. So yes, the mindset piece is critical, but so are also the tactics. What are some of the things you're doing to help you recreate that energy? And I can tell you, for me personally, like when I'm more plant-based, when it comes to eating, I have more energy. When I do workouts like Insanity Asylum, like I'm doing right now, I have more energy, which is crazy because you're like, well, it's a harder workout, but I still have more energy because it helps my body to recover and to get back at it and to be excited about doing a workout like that. So that is number three, is like energy boosting tactics and mindset for optimal performance. Do you have anything that you want to add to that too?
Yeah, and everybody has their own thing, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to do something crazy, like even going for a walk out in nature can be your thing. And it's just about finding that and what's
100%.
best for you. Yeah.
100%. Okay. Let's go through the steps again. Number one is understanding the entrepreneurial mindset. You see things differently. Number two is cultivating a growth mindset. Are you open to something outside of what you're currently doing, or are you stuck in what you currently know? Number three is boosting your energy for optimal performance, realizing that mindset and energy, as well as your physical state, is in direct proportion to the energy that you have, because you need to have energy to be able to show up on the level that you want to. Number four is building effective habits. Now, if you haven't read Atomic Habits, that book is a game changer. He talks about the science behind habits, but really it's about, and he calls it Atomic Habits because it's the small things you do every single day, like they say, over time builds up into that massive success that you want to be able to have. It's not like this huge, 7-hour workout today. It's doing 45 minutes of workout every single day that the calendar says it and continuing to do it over time, right? But we can also set up our environment so that we can have more success around taking those habits. So a lot of times when people think of habits, they're like, God, habits? Like that means I got to do self-discipline and I got to be motivated all the time. And it's like, well, yeah, part of that, but also there's ways of you kind of like hacking the system. All right. Couple of things. You'll see me and you'll see Teresa yelling at me whenever I have this thing in front of me. By the way, if we're on a podcast, they can't really see this. It's a huge water bottle that I have. Guess what I do? If I want to drink water, I put it in front of me and make it visible. Super easy, right? I don't even remember sometimes drinking this. And then Kurt's like, Mark, it looks like you drank like 32 gallons. I need to take a break soon and go to the bathroom. I'm like, you're right. And it's because it's in front of me. I don't even have to think about it. And how about if I remove the things that I don't want to do or make them more difficult to do, and then I also forget about those things too. If there's certain foods in the house, if there's things like that, like I am much more likely to go in there and grab it rather than if they weren't there at all. It's the same way with my business. When I have things set up, structure set up, when I have like a calendar, I make it as easy as possible and I make going the opposite direction as hard as possible, it literally gets me into an environment where it's just normal to do those things. Another thing is like the environment of the people that you surround yourself with, right? I'm lucky to be married to this beautiful woman right here who is like awesome environment to be in, supportive, there to help me, there to get me to continue to grow, right? And she does it in her own way, which is different than what Coach Mark does, right? But being able to have that, and as well as being in our coaching environment, being around other life coaches all the time, even getting to work one-on-one sometimes is really great for me because I learn so much from it, right? And it's like being in this kind of like environment helps set me up to take the actions and the habits that they're taking just on a consistent basis. Like we said before, like as a police officer, when I was 100 pounds overweight, when I was like really unhealthy, all that kind of stuff, it's very easy for me to convince myself to eat pizza and all those kind of things that the guys were eating. They would go to this pizza joint all the time. It was very hard for me to employ the habits that I wanted to employ when I was hanging out with other people who were employing other habits that were the exact opposite of what I wanted to do. And so making sure that in the areas that I can control it, I actually do take ownership of it, right? And I can take that part and realize like, hey, if I create an environment that makes it easier for me to do the habits that I want to do, it makes it so much more simple. And also it gets me to lean into my heart voice instead of my head. Some of the things that we can do physically in our environment, we can also set ourselves up for in our mindset department, right? It's the same thing of like reading every single day, reading my affirmations every single day, checking in with my team every single day. It's like doing those things that I know are going to set up my mindset to be in the right frame of mind to do all of those other things about reaching out, getting uncomfortable, speaking on stage, doing YouTube videos in front of lots of people, right? It's easier to do that when I fuel myself by the habits that I know that get me to really show up. And like Teresa said, every one of us has a different set of these habits. So think about what are some of the things you do that over time do get you to be in the right mindset and to take the actions that you want to take, and which ones go in the opposite direction, and how can you get more into surrounding yourself with the right people so that you start taking on the habits of those people rather than someone else. There you go.
Yeah, I love that.
Thanks. You gonna wind it up?
Yeah. So we have one more tip. Number 5 is fostering laser focus and concentration. So I get this a lot where, people just can't focus. They sit down on the computer and they just can't focus on things. And I mean, a lot of it has to do with environment. And also a lot of it has to do with there's no direction. You have no direction. You don't have specific goals. You don't have a plan. You don't have a plan, and you don't have intentionality. So that is one of the things that I would say is step number 1 is just really having some type of goals and it doesn't necessarily have to be a huge goal. It could just be a goal for the day. We have a journal that we use every day, and we set our intentions for the day. We plan out our day. What's going to be the 3 things that we want to get done today, right? And then we schedule it out. We block out some time when we're going to tackle those things. Like today, we told ourselves what time we were going to record this podcast / YouTube video because, we need to know what we're going to do and when we're going to do it. So that way we have more control over our day. It's the middle of summer right now. Our kids are home. Actually, my son actually has a summer class. And I had to set that up for him, kind of help him. He was a little nervous. But that's life. Things come up, but we still have a plan as to when we're going to do certain things. So that really helps with focus. And then just understanding the importance of setting your priorities and then aligning those actions along with those priorities, because we can get easily distracted. Like I said, we can get distracted by kids. We can get distracted by social media. We can get distracted by, something going wrong in the house, right? But as long as we have, we set our intentions and we can make tweaks along the way and just be, open to making changes, then, we'll be fine. So, just having that as kind of like giving yourself grace that things are going to happen, but you're still going to create that structure for yourself and create that environment that's going to help you focus, will will help you out.
Yeah. Can I add two things to that real quick? Because as you were talking, you always bring out like some really great points. The first thing is whenever I do talk to people who are getting distracted, I ask them like what specifically is distracting them, because I think like if you don't know what's distracting you, you can't really come up with a solution for it, right? And I've had people say, well, when I turn my computer on, there's this web page that I have open that reminds me of something else, and I very easily go down there and I'm like, well, can we close that? So can we set it up like before you close it down for the night? Like, can you just X out of that one so that the morning time it doesn't like pop up? I actually remember reading a book where he was like, what he would do is he didn't want to get on social media because he was writing a book. And so he would have his assistant go in and change all the passcodes for his social media accounts on Monday and say, you can't give them to me until Friday night. And so literally that he had no control over him. So he's like, I guess I should write a book because I can't go on social media, right? It's like you have to figure out what is distracting you and then figure out what boundaries can I set to make sure that it doesn't distract me anymore. And this is all a trial and error. Maybe that will work. Maybe you closing down that web page would work, but maybe not, right? I remember there was this part for like Facebook. If you have it on your computer, it's called like kill my news feed or something like that, so that you can't see your news feed on Facebook. That was a game changer for me back when I was struggling with like not going all these different directions because I thought I was working my business when in reality I was just scrolling to see like what was going to grab my attention, and it wasn't very helpful. So figuring out what's distracting you and setting boundaries. The second piece to this is finding out what your prime time is, okay? What is your prime time? For me, it's like super early. All the people on my team are like, are you serious? You wake up at 3 a.m. still? You're retired now. I'm like, I cannot give that time away because from what I do from 3 to 6 a.m. in the morning time is what most people do the entire day. I mean, just ask Teresa. She's like, I have no idea how you get, because that's my universal prime time. 3 to 6, my brain's firing. I'm good to go. I got some pre-workout in my system. I'm like unstoppable. I can go through things that would normally take me 6 hours in an hour, because I'm using that because it's my universal prime time. So when you think about things like from an entrepreneur perspective, are you using your entrepreneurial universal prime time to do the things that matter the most? Or are you like working on your backgrounds and your Canva files and all that kind of stuff, when in reality, it's time for you to like write the script. It's time for you to do the video. It's time for you to reach out to people, invite them to join your program, because that's when you have the most like good mindset, right? In the morning time, I'm on fire. I'm like, I'm going to go crush this, rather than, I see people do this all the time. They're getting off work. It's like 7 o'clock at night and they're like, well, I guess I have to work my business. And it's crap work in their business because they're like, let me just get whatever I can through my thing and just hit the enter button and just pray that tomorrow something's going to happen. And instead, it's about thinking of things differently. Like we started, right? It's like, how can I work this into a time that is my universal prime time? Now, before you condone me, I used to, and most of the time growing this business, I was a full-time police officer where we'd work 12-hour shifts. Lots of times where I've spent more times than that. I would build it into my lunchtime. I would find other ways. I would wake up like even earlier than 3 a.m. because I knew that I wanted to really give that and grow my business to the level that I wanted to. And I know I wouldn't be able to do that at nighttime. Even though I did have to do that sometimes, it's all about asking yourself, how might I be able to do it during my universal prime time, even if it's like making some adjustments? And then don't squander it away, right? If it's your prime time is like 7 o'clock at night and you're a night owl, please don't be folding laundry at 7 o'clock at night. It is the biggest waste of your universal prime time. Lean in, do something that actually moves the needle, and then you can do that other stuff at a time when you don't really need to think that much. And when you lean into doing that, not only will you have more energy, but your mindset will be in a better place, and you'll get more done in less time. All right. Sorry, I wanted to add those two things.
No, I love that. I love that. All right. So those were our 5 tips on entrepreneurial mindset and the way you can unlock your energy, habits, and focus. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. I hope you're able to, find some of these tips and apply them. And really, I guess I'm just going to end it with this, is reflect on your own mindset, your own energy levels, habits, and focus, and track them. That's one thing you can do moving forward, is just see where it is that you need to focus on. Maybe it is your physical energy. You're like, I don't know what it is, but I just can't, I can barely get through the day. I'm drinking 3 Red Bulls and I don't know what's going on. Well, track it. Track to see when that's happening. And maybe it's something that you'll have to get, get looked at. Like maybe you'll have to go to the doctor or something. But if we don't know what it is that we need to focus on, we're never going to be able to pinpoint what's going to help us the most. So I will leave you with that. Just track your mindset. When is it that you're feeling kind of blah or maybe kind of like in a bad mood? What's your energy level like? What's also maybe your action level? Like maybe there's a certain period of time that you're taking lots of action and you have high energy. Maybe that's your prime time. Write it down. That way you can use that moving forward and see, when it is that you maybe lose focus. Like Mark said, kind of, looking at your computer and seeing what it is that you're setting yourself up for failure if you have all these tabs open that you're going to get distracted by.
I love it.
I thought you were going to say something. No? All right. Well, I hope that was helpful, guys. And I will, give Mark the mic again so he can close off his YouTube channel. But I hope you guys have an amazing day.
Thank you. All right. And scene. Where's the little thing? Clack. Guys, I hope this was helpful. I know even just verbalizing this out loud and listening to Teresa, it actually helped me. I know we kind of talked about these as being like 5 steps, or at least I did. And I don't want you to think of these as steps as like you got to do step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. But I really feel like this is a synergy thing where if you look at all 5 of these things, you can have an idea of like where you need to spend your time and attention and brain power this week. And I do want to hear about it in the comment section. Kurt is going to be here. Forgot to mention that. But I want to hear like which one of these steps is going to be your primary focus this week. Is it really understanding entrepreneurial mindset and seeing things differently? Is it cultivating a growth mindset? Maybe being like making sure that it's not an or situation, that it's an and situation, that there's answers that are out there. Instead of making statements, make them into questions. Number 3, boosting energy for optimal performance. Like Teresa says, maybe you need to generate more energy and find out what gets you to be like on fire. Number 4 is building effective habits. Maybe you need to make it easier for you to do some of the things you want to do and harder for you to do some of the others. And number 5 is fostering laser focus and concentration. Find out when in the past you've been laser focused, you've had the energy, you've been on point, and what was it that was going on, and especially what time and around the time frame, when was it that you can now like actually take moving forward and find those that gold from the past experience and move it forward so you can continue to crush your goals. Now, of course, we talked a lot about community, right? Whether, a lot of you guys are a part of our community, whether you're in our Master Coach program, you're in our Push Coach certification school, you're working with us one-on-one. It's all about like finding that community so that you can do all of these things on speed boost. I mean, I've always found that has been the thing that has gotten me success the fastest in every single one of these areas is like making sure that I surround myself with the right people and I have the right input. And if we can help you do that, I'll leave you the link inside of the description on how to apply to be a part of one of our teams. I'll reach out to you. Either Teresa or I will reach out to you and we'll describe what that looks like. But we also want to end like this all the time. And that is like, we appreciate you guys for doing the difficult thing. Like being an entrepreneur is not easy. It's just like being a leader, right? That's why this is modern leadership. Like it's not the easy times that make us leaders, successful leaders. It's also not the easy times in our life that make us entrepreneurs. It's the hard times. It's when we get knocked down 9 and we get up 10, right? And being willing to do that because I know you want to make an impact in the world is huge. And I appreciate you so much for that. Even though I'm in Maui right now, I'm thinking about you guys and all the impact that you're making in the world right now. We so appreciate you. Thank you for even making this Modern Leadership YouTube channel such a big success that it is right now. And of course, if there's anybody that you think would really benefit from this, pass this on to your team, to your friends, somebody else you think needs to hear this right now. And if you're that person who made it here, I want you to like make sure you realize like not only how awesome of a leader you have, but how much leadership ability you have inside of you too. All right. Super proud of everybody. Thank you guys. We look forward to seeing you guys next Saturday at our normal time. And yeah, have a great day. All right.